The wind howled across the jagged cliffs of Urindor 7, carrying fine red dust that cut against Kale Merrick's skin like invisible knives. He squinted through the storm, his hands gripping the edge of the observation platform. The alien landscape stretched endlessly below him, a vast canyon network lined with jagged spires and deep crevices that seemed to vanish into shadow. This planet was beautiful, deadly, and utterly unwelcoming, yet it had drawn Kale here like a moth to a flame. He had come to study the native fauna, to understand the ecosystems of a world untouched by human hands, but the storm had other plans. Kale shifted his pack and adjusted his helmet, checking the readings from his environmental scanner. Everything indicated that the storm was escalating faster than expected. The temperature was dropping, and the gusts of wind were growing stronger, threatening to throw him off balance. He cursed under his breath. A human alone on Urindor 7 had little chance of surviving in a storm like this, yet there was no turning back now. His mission was too important, and the colony at the plateau above relied on the data he had been collecting for months. He began to descend carefully into a narrow canyon, hoping to find shelter among the rock formations. His boots scraped against loose gravel, and each step threatened to send him tumbling into the abyss below. The wind seemed to mock him, swirling around the canyon walls and carrying with it the distant echoes of strange, alien cries. Kale had heard them before, recordings from other explorers who had ventured into these canyons. The noises were haunting, almost musical, but in reality they came from predators perfectly adapted to this harsh environment. Kale's mind was focused on survival, but his curiosity never rested. He had a scanner in one hand, tracking the movements of the alien creatures, while the other hand clutched a makeshift spear. Human ingenuity, he reminded himself, could solve almost any problem. If he could just reach the canyon floor safely, he might find evidence of a new species, something that could change humanity's understanding of alien life forever. Then came a sudden tremor. The ground beneath him shook violently, and Kale stumbled, barely managing to grab hold of a rock ledge. Dust and small stones rained down from the cliff above, making it impossible to see clearly. The storm had unleashed something stronger than expected. His heart pounded in his chest as he realized the canyon was becoming unstable. He needed help and fast. That's when he saw her. She appeared almost silently, stepping out from the shadows where the rocks jutted sharply from the canyon wall. At first, he thought it was one of the alien predators, but the shape was wrong. She was tall, human-shaped, yet there was something in the way she moved that made Kale pause. She was too precise, too deliberate like a machine, but there was warmth in her presence that no machine could mimic. Her eyes, a faint, glowing blue, met his, and she smiled faintly. "Do you need me now or later?" she asked, her voice calm, almost musical, cutting through the roar of the storm. Kale froze. He had no words. It wasn't just that the question was strange, it was the way she said it, like she already knew the answer and was only giving him the chance to speak. His mind raced. Did she mean help, or was this some kind of test? Was she human or something else entirely? He started, but the words failed him. The storm seemed louder now, as if mocking his hesitation. The canyon floor beneath him groaned and shifted. If he didn't act fast, the next tremor could send him plummeting to his death. "Now," she said softly, taking a step closer. Her presence was calm, reassuring, but impossible to ignore. Without waiting for his consent, she reached out. Her hands were surprisingly strong, yet gentle, as she grabbed his arm and pulled him toward a narrow ledge. Kale realized almost reluctantly that he had no choice. He trusted her, or at least he had to. They moved together through the canyon, Kale stumbling at every step. Lyra, he had no idea what to call her, guiding him with precision that seemed almost preternatural. The wind still howled, but with her leading the way, he felt a strange sense of security. Even the alien predators lurking in the shadows seemed to pause at her presence. As they moved, Kale studied her carefully. She was humanoid, yes, but the faint metallic sheen of her skin and the subtle hum of energy beneath her movements suggested she was something more than human. Perhaps an AI, he thought, or some advanced android designed to survive in this environment. And yet she didn't act like a cold machine. There was empathy in the way she adjusted her pace to his, in the way she watched the terrain and calculated the safest path. It was as if she could predict every danger before it happened. They reached a small alcove, sheltered from the worst of the wind, and Kale collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. Lyra knelt beside him, scanning the environment with eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. "You will survive this storm," she said almost matter-of-factly. "But you will need guidance. Do you trust me?" "Yes," he said, his voice barely audible over the wind. "Good," she replied. Her smile was faint, almost imperceptible, but it carried a weight of certainty that calmed him more than any words could. The storm continued to rage outside, but in that small alcove, Cale began to feel a strange sense of hope. He realized that whatever she was, Lyra was capable of more than he had imagined. And in that moment, he understood something fundamental. Humanity was resourceful, but even the most resourceful human could not survive this world alone. It was cooperation, human or otherwise, that would determine survival. Hours passed. Cale and Lyra waited in silence, the storm battering the canyon walls. He learned to observe her movements, the way she analyzed the environment, predicted the tremors, and reacted to danger before it fully emerged. He began to realize that this was not just a rescue. It was a lesson in survival, a demonstration of the unique advantage of combining human intuition with something beyond human capability. By the time the storm began to ease, Cale had gained a strange confidence. He could not explain why he felt this way, but he trusted that together, he and Lyra could navigate the dangers of Erendor 7. When the wind finally died down, revealing the jagged beauty of the canyon beneath the pale light of the planet's twin moons, Cale looked at her and finally found his voice. Why did you ask me that question earlier? The one about now or later? Sometimes too proud to survive without guidance. As they began their careful descent toward the canyon floor, Cale couldn't help but feel a thrill of excitement. Danger awaited them, yes, but so did discovery. Somewhere in the shadowed depths of the canyon lay secrets that no human had ever seen. And for the first time, Cale understood that survival was only part of the adventure. To uncover the unknown, to push the boundaries of human knowledge, required courage, ingenuity, and sometimes trust in the unexpected. And Cale Merrick, for the first time in his life, felt that he was ready. The canyon stretched endlessly before them, a maze of stone and shadow, but with Lyra guiding the way, Cale felt a rare certainty. Humans were clever, resourceful, and capable of incredible things. But sometimes it took a force beyond themselves to show them what they could truly achieve. Together, they moved into the darkness, ready to face whatever Erendor 7 had in store. And in the quiet moments between tremors and howling winds, Cale could not help but wonder, who or what was Lyra and why had she chosen him? The answer, he suspected, would change everything. The canyon floor was darker than Cale expected. Shadows stretched like fingers across the jagged rocks, and the storm had left pools of red water reflecting the pale light of Erendor 7 twin moons. Every step echoed against the canyon walls, a reminder that they were alone in a world that did not forgive mistakes. Cale adjusted his pack, his fingers brushing the scanner he carried. The readings were strange, alien energy signatures pulsed faintly through the ground, almost like the planet itself was alive. Lyra moved ahead of him, her steps silent yet deliberate. She did not rush, but she seemed to know every stone, every loose shard of rock. Cale tried to keep up, slipping occasionally, but she would glance back with the faintest hint of amusement and extend a hand. She did not speak much, only guiding with gestures and occasional soft commands. "This way," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, yet it carried certainty that calmed Cale's racing mind. They moved deeper into the canyon, and Cale noticed a pattern in the alien energy readings. The pulses were rhythmic, almost mechanical, yet organic at the same time. He crouched to examine a cluster of jagged crystals growing from the canyon wall. They emitted a faint hum when he touched them, vibrating in tune with the energy readings. "These aren't just crystals," Cale said, excitement creeping into his voice. "They're alive in a way, some kind of energy-conducting life form. I've never seen anything like this." Humanity's ingenuity had always thrived on observation and careful experimentation. But sometimes, patience was the only way to survive in alien worlds. As they continued, a low growl echoed from the shadows ahead. Cale froze. The sound was guttural and deep, vibrating through the canyon walls. He had heard recordings of the predators on Erendor 7, but nothing could prepare him for the reality of it. The ground beneath his feet trembled slightly with the creature's movements. Lyra stepped in front of him, her posture calm but alert. "Do not run," she said softly. "They react to fear, not to logic." He had survived storms, tremors, and isolation, but the predators of Erendor 7 were a different challenge. Their senses were finely tuned to detect movement and energy fluctuations. One wrong step, and Cale could become prey. The growl grew louder, and from the darkness, a massive shape emerged. Its body was sleek and muscular, covered in scales that reflected the pale light like shattered glass. Its eyes glowed faintly, and its teeth, sharp and glimmering, hinted at a predator built for efficiency. Kale froze, unsure whether to fight or hide. Lyra moved with precision. She raised her hand, and the creature stopped, tilting its head as if considering her. Kale realized she was not just guiding him, she was communicating with the predator using signals he could not understand. The creature growled once more, then retreated slowly into the shadows, leaving Kale stunned. "How did you do that?" he asked, breathless. "I understand patterns," Lyra said simply. "Not all threats require confrontation, some require understanding." And in this moment, he realized that even with all their technology, humans alone might not have survived this encounter. They pressed on, moving through narrow passages and climbing over jagged rocks. Kale's legs ached, his lungs burned, but he kept moving, driven by a mix of fear and curiosity. The canyon seemed to shift around them, almost as if it were alive. Energy readings spiked unexpectedly, and Kale had to duck to avoid falling debris. "Why are we going deeper?" he asked. "Shouldn't we head back to the colony?" What could be so important that it required venturing deeper into the heart of danger? His scientific instincts overrode his fear. Humanity had always pushed boundaries, and now, faced with the unknown, he felt the familiar thrill of discovery. They reached a narrow ledge overlooking a hidden basin. The moonlight reflected off strange, crystalline structures scattered across the ground. At the center of the basin was a massive formation, taller than any building Kale had seen on Earth, glowing faintly with alien energy. He felt a shiver run down his spine. This was no ordinary structure. Lyra turned to him, her glowing eyes fixed on his. "This is what I came to show you," she said. "An ancient construct left by a civilization long gone. It contains knowledge and power that humans have never encountered." The knowledge was dangerous. Misuse could be catastrophic. As they approached the structure, Kale noticed glyphs etched into the crystalline walls. They pulsed faintly with energy, almost like a heartbeat. He ran his fingers over the surface, careful not to disturb it. The symbols were unlike anything he had studied before, a mix of geometric precision and organic flow. Lyra observed silently, letting him work. "These symbols, they're instructions," Kale whispered. "Instructions for something, but I can't decipher them fully." He had faced danger before, but this was different. This was a test of intellect, intuition, and human adaptability. Humanity had survived not just through strength, but through creativity, empathy, and quick thinking. This was the moment where those traits mattered more than any weapon or technology. They moved closer to the heart of the construct. The energy readings spiked, and Kale felt a strange warmth wash over him. The structure seemed almost alive, responding to his presence. He realized that every step required careful thought, every movement calculated to avoid triggering a defense mechanism. Suddenly, a low hum filled the basin. The crystals around them glowed brighter, and a figure began to materialize in the center of the formation. It was humanoid, but clearly not human, its features shifting and shimmering like liquid light. Kale felt a mixture of awe and fear. This was a being or a projection left by the ancient civilization. "Who are you?" Kale asked, his voice trembling slightly. The figure did not speak in words, but Kale felt its presence in his mind, a wave of understanding and curiosity. It showed him visions of the civilization that had built the structure, a society advanced in technology but lacking empathy and adaptability. They had mastered machines but underestimated unpredictability. They had fallen because they could not adapt when the universe changed. Kale realized the lesson. Humanity was different. Humans were imperfect, emotional, unpredictable, but that very imperfection made them resilient. Their creativity, their intuition, their ability to act on instinct as well as logic made them capable of surviving where others had failed. Lyra stood beside him, her expression calm. "You see now," she said softly. "Humans are stronger than they know, not because of strength, but because of choice, adaptability, and courage." As they prepared to explore deeper, Kale noticed movement in the shadows. The predators of the canyon were returning, attracted by the energy of the structure. Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes calm but alert. "Do you remember your lesson?" she asked. Kale squared his shoulders. "Yes, we adapt, we survive. We think beyond what is expected." In that moment, he understood something fundamental. Humans could face worlds that seemed impossible, not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they were adaptable, courageous, and clever. Humanity was extraordinary in ways the universe had not yet seen. And with Lyra by his side, Kale Merrick felt ready to prove it. The deeper they went into the alien structure, the more Kale realized how little he truly understood about the universe. The crystalline walls glowed with shifting patterns, casting strange reflections across the cavernous halls. The air was heavy with energy, and every step echoed like a drumbeat in a cathedral of stone. Kale's mind raced with questions, but he pushed them aside. Survival and discovery came first, and this structure demanded both. Lyra moved confidently ahead, her body flowing gracefully as she navigated the uneven ground. Kale followed, careful not to stumble. Each step felt like walking through history itself, a civilization that had reached incredible heights yet vanished without warning. The patterns on the walls pulsed in sync with his heartbeat, as if the structure could sense his presence, his intent. "This place, it's alive," Kale whispered almost to himself. "Yes," Lyra said, her voice soft but firm. "In a way, it reacts, it observes, it tests. The builders designed it to interact only with those who could understand its purpose. Many have tried and failed. You may be the first human to come this far." This was what humans were meant to do: explore, adapt, and confront the unknown with courage and creativity. As they moved deeper, Kale noticed a chamber ahead. Massive crystalline pillars reached up like spires, and at the center of the room was a glowing platform. The energy readings spiked sharply. Kale approached cautiously, his eyes scanning the walls for traps. Lyra stood beside him, her posture calm, her glowing eyes scanning every surface. "This is it," she said. "The heart of the structure. What you find here will test your understanding and your instincts. Proceed carefully." Images flashed before his eyes, scenes of an ancient civilization, advanced machines operating in perfect order, cities of light and energy. Then he saw the downfall, the same civilization destroyed by their own perfection. Machines could not anticipate unpredictability. Life, in all its complexity, had escaped their control. He realized something profound. Humanity, flawed as it was, thrived because of imperfection. Emotions, mistakes, creativity, these were strengths, not weaknesses. Where a machine or alien intellect might fail when faced with chaos, humans could adapt. The HFY truth was undeniable. Humans were extraordinary, capable of surviving what others could not. Lyra's voice broke through his thoughts. "Do you see now? Your people are capable of more than you imagine. The challenge is not to dominate, but to understand and adapt. That is your advantage." He felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. Every step brought him closer to understanding, but also closer to danger. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the chamber. Kale stumbled but caught himself, glancing around. Crystals along the walls glowed brighter, and energy pulses raced along the floor like lightning. The structure was responding, reacting to their presence. Lyra raised her hand. "Steady. Observe, do not panic. The structure tests those who enter, it adapts to your actions." This was what made humans exceptional, the ability to combine logic with instinct. They moved through a narrow corridor, the walls vibrating with energy. The glyphs seemed to shift as they passed, revealing new patterns and concealing others. Kale realized that the structure was not static. It was a living puzzle, one that required understanding, observation, and human ingenuity. Ahead, they encountered a chamber filled with floating orbs of light. Each orb emitted a different frequency, and the platform beneath them reacted accordingly. Kale approached carefully, observing the pattern. The orbs responded to movement, sound, and even intent. One wrong interaction could trigger a defensive mechanism. Kale thought quickly. He remembered how humans often solved complex problems, by improvising, testing, and learning from mistakes. He extended a hand toward one orb, then withdrew it when it reacted unpredictably. He tried another, noting the sequence of changes. Slowly, methodically, he mapped the pattern, moving each orb into alignment with the structure's energy flow. Lyra watched silently, her expression unreadable. When the last orb clicked into place, the chamber fell silent. Energy surged through the walls, illuminating hidden passages. Kale felt a rush of accomplishment. Humans might be imperfect, but their adaptability and intuition allowed them to succeed where others failed. As they moved into the newly revealed corridor, Kale sensed movement behind them. Shadows shifted, and he realized the predators of the canyon were drawn to the energy of the structure. They were cautious, observing from the edges of the chamber, waiting for an opportunity. "Prepare yourself," Lyra said. "They will test you." The creatures emerged from the shadows, sleek, muscular, and lethal. Their eyes glowed and their movements were calculated. Yet Kale noticed something. They were predictable in ways Lyra was not. He saw patterns in their behavior, small hesitations, and repeated movements. He realized he could anticipate their actions. Using the environment, Kale set up a series of traps. He knocked loose crystals to create barriers, used sound to mislead them, and guided them into narrow spaces where their size became a disadvantage. Lyra assisted, but Kale was the one improvising, thinking like a human, not a machine. The creatures attacked, but the combination of instinct and observation allowed them to survive. Breathing heavily, Kale looked at Lyra. "I see now," he said. "Humans, we survive because we can think beyond what's expected. We improvise, we adapt." Each chamber revealed new challenges, new puzzles, and new opportunities to prove human ingenuity. The ancient civilization had created these tests to measure worthiness, and Kale understood that the lessons were universal. Knowledge without adaptability was useless. At the end of the corridor, they reached a massive chamber. In its center was a pedestal, and atop it rested a crystalline artifact pulsating with energy. Kale approached cautiously, feeling the hum of power resonating through his body. He could sense that this was the key to understanding the ancient civilization, and perhaps a tool that could aid humanity in ways previously unimaginable. Lyra stepped beside him. "This artifact contains the culmination of the builder's knowledge, but it will only respond to those who combine intellect with intuition. Your choices, your actions, your understanding, these will determine what it reveals. Imperfect, unpredictable, and capable of incredible things." He reached out, and the artifact pulsed in response, its light expanding to fill the chamber. Images, data, and patterns flowed into his mind. He saw the rise and fall of civilizations, the limits of technology without adaptability, and the incredible potential of beings who could think, feel, and act with ingenuity. Kale staggered back, overwhelmed but exhilarated. This is humanity's advantage," he said, his voice trembling. "We survive because we can adapt. We thrive because we think beyond what's expected." The final test awaits. She was more than a guide. She was a companion, a teacher, and a reflection of what humans could become when aided by knowledge and intuition. Together, they would face whatever the alien structure and Urindor 7 threw at them. The path ahead was uncertain, but Kale felt a deep certainty within himself. Humans were not the strongest, nor the fastest, nor the most advanced. Yet their creativity, courage, and adaptability made them extraordinary. And in the silent glow of the alien structure, Kale Merrick understood that this truth could carry humanity across the stars. The chamber hummed around them, alive with energy and possibilities, as Kale and Lyra prepared to face the final trials that awaited in the heart of Urindor 7 mysterious canyon. The lessons of survival, ingenuity, and adaptability had only just begun. The chamber's glow bathed Kale and Lyra in pale light as they stepped forward, the artifact's hum fading behind them. The air had grown heavier, filled with tension, as though the structure itself was waiting to see if they were worthy. Every step they took was measured, careful. Kale's heart pounded with excitement and fear. They had come far, but the deeper they went, the more he understood that the greatest challenge lay ahead. "This is where most fail," Lyra said quietly, her eyes scanning the walls. "The structure now tests not just understanding, but action. What you do next will determine if you survive." He had faced predators, storms, and ancient puzzles, but nothing felt as real as this moment. The corridor ahead widened into a vast hall, the walls shimmering with energy. At the center was a massive console of crystalline panels, their surfaces shifting like liquid glass. Energy arcs danced between the panels, forming intricate patterns that seemed almost alive. As Kale approached, the panels shifted suddenly, projecting an array of holographic symbols and alien language. He could feel the energy reacting to his presence, testing his understanding. Then, without warning, the floor trembled and a deep rumble echoed through the hall. Kale froze. Shadows along the walls stretched and warped. From the darkness, mechanical arms and strange constructs emerged, moving with precision and speed. The structure had defenses, an alien system designed to prevent intruders from taking what lay at its heart. "Prepare yourself," Lyra said, her voice steady, yet carrying an undercurrent of urgency. "They will test your reflexes, your planning, and your ability to improvise. Watch closely, think quickly, act decisively." He took a deep breath and made his first move. Using the environment, he knocked loose a cluster of small crystalline formations. They tumbled down, scattering energy arcs and creating a temporary barrier. The constructs paused, recalculating their path. Lyra watched, her eyes glowing faintly, approving the improvisation. Kale moved quickly, weaving between the arcs of energy and timing his steps carefully. He had learned in the canyon that anticipation was as important as speed. One misstep, one hesitation, and the energy would have knocked him off his feet, or worse. But human intuition was his strength. Machines could calculate, but they could not anticipate unpredictability the way a human could. A construct lunged toward him, a sharp appendage aimed to strike. Kale rolled aside, using a reflective crystal panel to redirect an energy arc. The construct recoiled, momentarily disabled, and he took the opportunity to move closer to the central console. Lyra moved beside him, her actions precise and calculated, complementing his improvisation perfectly. "This is it," she said. "Combine your understanding with action. Do not hesitate. The structure rewards creativity as much as precision." The constructs reacted, but Kale's quick thinking allowed him to stay one step ahead. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. The energy arcs intensified, constructs attacked relentlessly, and the chamber itself seemed to shift with every move. Kale felt exhaustion creeping in, but he pushed forward, relying on observation, intuition, and courage. Every time a construct lunged, he improvised, using the terrain, reflections, and the energy of the crystals themselves to his advantage. At one point, a massive energy surge forced Kale and Lyra to leap onto a raised platform. The floor below pulsed with danger, cracks appearing along the crystalline surface. Kale held his breath, timing his jump perfectly, and landed safely beside Lyra. She gave him a brief nod, acknowledging his skill. "You're learning," she said, "but the final phase is coming. It will test everything you have, intellect, reflexes, and instinct." Kale scanned the symbols, noticing sequences hidden within the chaos. The structure was teaching him something, forcing him to think beyond mere survival, to anticipate, plan, and improvise simultaneously. He adjusted his strategy. Using his scanner, he identified energy frequencies in the arcs that could be manipulated. With careful timing, he directed the energy, creating corridors of safety. The constructs reacted, but he was always one step ahead. Lyra mirrored his movements, her guidance invaluable, yet she allowed him to take the lead. "This is what makes humans extraordinary," Lyra said softly. "You adapt, you improvise, you survive not because you are strongest, but because you can think beyond the obvious." Humanity had faced impossible odds before, from deserts to oceans to space itself. The lessons of survival, invention, and adaptation were ingrained in their species. Here in this alien hall, those same traits were proving vital. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Kale reached the central console. The constructs paused, their energy arcs dimming. The console's surface rippled, and a deep hum filled the hall. Kale realized that the structure was responding not just to their presence, but to their choices, to the creativity and courage displayed in their actions. He placed his hands on the console, feeling energy flow into him. Images of the ancient civilization flashed before his eyes. Their cities of light, their machines, and ultimately their downfall. They had relied solely on perfection, on logic without unpredictability. Kale understood the lesson. Humans thrived because they combined intellect, creativity, and instinct in ways that no machine or alien mind could replicate. The energy pulse from the console subsided, leaving a calm hum in the chamber. The constructs deactivated, retreating into the walls, and the energy arcs dimmed. Kale and Lyra stood together, catching their breath. They had survived the trial. They had proven human ingenuity, adaptability, and courage. Lyra turned to Kale. "You have succeeded," she said. "The structure recognizes the value of your species. You are capable of greatness beyond what you imagine. But remember, knowledge alone is not enough. You must use it wisely, with understanding and foresight." These traits, imperfect yet powerful, had carried them across stars and would continue to do so. Here, in the heart of Erendor 7's ancient structure, he had seen proof of that truth. They moved to the edge of the chamber, where a corridor opened into a smaller, glowing room. At its center lay a crystalline device, humming softly with alien energy. Kale approached cautiously. This was the reward for passing the trial, the culmination of the structure's test. "This artifact," Lyra said, "contains knowledge that can aid humanity, but it will not reveal itself fully until you understand what it asks of you. Your choices matter. Approach with clarity, courage, and wisdom." Humanity had always risen to challenges, even when the odds seemed impossible. Now he held the potential to bring that same resourcefulness to the galaxy itself. He reached out, and the artifact pulsed, responding to his touch. A wave of energy flowed through him, images of alien systems, energy sources, and technological knowledge filling his mind. Kale staggered back, overwhelmed but exhilarated. He understood now that the trial had not been just about survival. It was about proving that humans, with their creativity, intuition, and courage, could overcome challenges no other species could. The HFY truth was undeniable. Humans were extraordinary. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. You have passed, but the journey continues. What you have learned here must guide you, for challenges lie ahead that will test these lessons further. That was a truth no machine, no alien, and no force in the universe could deny. Together, Kale and Lyra moved forward, ready to face whatever the next trial might bring. The path was uncertain, filled with danger and discovery, but Kale felt a deep certainty in his heart. Humanity had survived against impossible odds before, and they would continue to do so. Their ingenuity, creativity, and resilience were unparalleled. As the chamber's glow faded behind them, Kale glanced at Lyra. I understand now, he said. Humans are not the strongest or the fastest, but we are capable of incredible things. We adapt, we improvise, and we survive where others fail. And now you will take that knowledge into the world. Humanity's journey is just beginning, and your choices will shape its future. And as they moved into the corridors ahead, he knew that the final trial awaited, a challenge that would push them to the limits of endurance, intellect, and survival. But Kale Merrick was ready. Humanity was ready. The light of the alien structure pulsed softly around them, a reminder that knowledge and opportunity awaited those brave enough to reach for it. And in that glow, Kale felt the promise of humanity's extraordinary potential, ready to face the unknown with courage, creativity, and unyielding determination. Kale stepped into the final chamber with cautious excitement, his every sense alert. The air shimmered with energy, thicker than anything he had felt in the previous halls. The walls were crystalline, reflecting light in hundreds of directions, and at the center, a massive orb floated above a pedestal. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat, radiating warmth and knowledge. The artifact they had discovered in the last chamber had led them here, and Kale knew this was the ultimate test, the culmination of everything they had faced in Orindor 7. Lyra stood beside him, calm as ever. This chamber will reveal its secrets only to those who have proven their understanding, courage, and adaptability, she said. You have passed the previous trials, but this is the final measure. One wrong move and the chamber may collapse. Proceed carefully. He had survived storms, alien predators, reactive structures, and complex puzzles. He had learned lessons about human ingenuity, adaptability, and courage that went beyond anything he had experienced. Now all of it would be put to the ultimate test. He took a deep breath, reminding himself that humans thrived not because they were the strongest, but because they could adapt, improvise, and act with intelligence and creativity. The orb floated silently, its surface rippling with light and patterns. Kale reached out, feeling energy radiate from it. Instantly, holographic images appeared around him, showing alien worlds, advanced civilizations, and vast energy systems. He realized that this was not just a machine. It was a repository of knowledge from a civilization far older and more advanced than humanity. And it was alive in its own way, responding to thought and action. As he moved closer, the floor trembled. Energy arcs shot up from the ground, forming barriers and obstacles. The orb pulsed faster, reacting to their presence. Kale understood instantly. This chamber would test them physically, mentally, and emotionally. The trials were not over, they had reached the final phase. Observe, anticipate, and act, Lyra said, her glowing eyes fixed on him. The structure values creativity and adaptability above all. You must combine everything you have learned. Suddenly, one of the energy barriers surged unexpectedly, forcing him to leap onto a raised platform. The chamber reacted instantly, sending more arcs and moving obstacles in complex sequences. Kale's heart raced. Every step was a risk, every move critical. But he remembered what Lyra had taught him. The structure tested ingenuity, not brute force. He noticed that the orb's pulses aligned with certain patterns in the obstacles. By predicting the sequence, he could use their momentum to his advantage. Kale timed his jumps perfectly, moving with the rhythm of the chamber, using instinct as well as intellect. Lyra followed his movements, adjusting her guidance but letting him take the lead. An enormous energy surge shot across the chamber, forcing Kale to dive behind a crystalline pillar. Sparks flew and the floor cracked beneath him. He could feel the heat of the energy, the weight of danger pressing down. Yet he did not panic. He calculated, observed, and improvised. Using reflections from the crystals, he redirected an energy arc to disable one of the moving obstacles. The path cleared momentarily, and he ran toward the orb, each step synchronized with the pulsing light. The orb responded to his presence, sending waves of information into his mind. He saw visions of the ancient civilization, their achievements, their downfall, their mistakes. They had relied entirely on precision, control, and machines. They had lacked adaptability, emotion, and intuition. Their knowledge was vast, but their flaw had been the inability to respond to unpredictability. Humans, Kale realized, were the opposite. Their imperfections, their creativity, courage, and unpredictability made them stronger than perfection alone. Lyra spoke softly, her voice cutting through the hum of energy. You see it now. Humanity's advantage is not strength or speed alone. It is the ability to adapt, to improvise, and to act with both logic and instinct. This chamber exists to test that. You have succeeded where others would fail. Now in this alien chamber, he could see clearly why. Adaptability, ingenuity, and courage were at the core of their survival. The final set of obstacles appeared faster and more complex than before. The chamber shifted, creating a maze of energy arcs and moving platforms. Kale adjusted quickly, recalling the lessons from the previous trials. Observation, timing, improvisation. He jumped, ducked, and twisted, using reflections from the crystalline walls to predict the movement of the energy arcs. Lyra moved alongside him, her precision complementing his improvisation. Together, they were unstoppable. Finally, Kale reached the pedestal. The orb hovered just above it, pulsating in rhythm with the energy in the chamber. He placed his hands on the surface, feeling the warmth and power. Instantly, a wave of knowledge and understanding flowed into him. He could see the energy systems of distant worlds, the history of civilizations long extinct, and the potential for humanity to thrive in ways previously unimaginable. He staggered back, overwhelmed but exhilarated. The chamber pulsed once more, then fell silent. The energy arcs disappeared, the moving obstacles deactivated, and the final trial was complete. Kale had succeeded. He had combined intellect, intuition, and courage to overcome the ultimate challenge. Humanity's strength, he realized, was extraordinary. Lyra stepped beside him, her expression calm but proud. You have proven what humans are capable of. Your species thrives because of unpredictability, creativity, and courage. This knowledge is now yours to use wisely. But more importantly, he understood the lesson. Humans were capable of thriving in ways no other species could, not because they were perfect, but because they could adapt and innovate when it mattered most. This changes everything, Kale said, his voice trembling. Humanity can survive anywhere. We can explore, build, and thrive. We have the creativity and courage to face anything. He realized that their journey was only beginning. Erendor 7 had tested them, revealed the truth of human potential, and offered knowledge that could accelerate humanity's future. The challenges ahead would be many, but humans had already proven their strength, not in raw power, but in adaptability, creativity, and resilience. As they moved toward the exit, the chamber's light dimmed, leaving only the soft glow of the orb in the center. Kale felt a deep sense of partnership with Lyra. She had guided him, tested him, and allowed him to learn through experience. Together, they had faced the impossible and succeeded. Stepping into the canyon outside, Kale breathed the crisp night air, feeling the twin moons illuminate the jagged landscape. The storm had passed, leaving the planet silent and still. He glanced at Lyra, who stood beside him, glowing faintly in the moonlight. I understand now, Kale said. Humans are not the strongest or the fastest, but we are capable of incredible things. Our unpredictability, creativity, and courage make us extraordinary. He felt a surge of pride and determination. Humanity had survived and prospered for millennia because of its resourcefulness, adaptability, and unyielding spirit. Now, with the lessons of Erendor 7, they could achieve even greater heights. As they began the journey back to the colony, Kale felt a sense of certainty. Challenges would come, storms, predators, alien mysteries, but humanity had proven time and again that it could overcome anything. Adaptability, creativity, and courage were their greatest weapons, and with them no obstacle was insurmountable. He glanced at Lyra one last time, a smile forming on his face. I need you now, he said, the words carrying new meaning. Not dependence, but partnership. Together they had faced the unknown and emerged victorious. Together they would carry humanity's potential into the stars. The canyon stretched endlessly before them, shadows giving way to moonlight. Kale knew that humanity's journey was just beginning, and the lessons of Erendor 7 would guide them. The universe was vast, full of mysteries and challenges, but humans were extraordinary. They could adapt, survive, and thrive where others could not. And with that truth in his heart, Kale Merrick stepped forward. ready to lead humanity into a future full of possibility, discovery, and hope. The stars above Erendor 7 shimmered in silent witness to the journey of a species that had learned its greatest strength was not perfection, but the courage to face the unknown and the wisdom to adapt. Humanity's story was just beginning.